industry-leading genetics, extensive local breeding and testing, top-performing products, developed specifically for your field. Visit pioneer.com/what's next to learn more.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. It's the Farmer Rapid Fire today, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Thank you so much for making Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday and listening to RealAg Radio, and also enjoying it on the podcast as well. The RealAg Radio podcast subscriptions continue to grow, so it is great to have everybody listening there as well. And on a day like today, we probably have an extended version of the show on the podcast version of the program. So make sure you another incentive for you to listen to the podcast version on top of what you're hearing here on Sirius. Okay, so like I said, today is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, and Pioneer brand of canola with Optimum Gly is something you need to consider this fall. Optimum Gly is the highest yielding glyphosate-tolerant trait on the market. What's next in canola happens right here. Go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. Optimum Gly, also the sponsor of our Agritechnica coverage from last year. It's great to have Pioneer as the exclusive sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire. Well, today, speaking of our farmers and ranchers, we got Gerrit Herrema. He is in Ontario. We got Byrne from Ontario. Jocelyn Wasko ranches in Eastend, Saskatchewan. Chad Beagle is a rancher in Rimbey, Alberta. And today's Pioneer agronomist is Mike Weir out of Manitoba. And rain on the prairies this week, pretty substantial rain. I'm sure Mike's going to have some stories for us. And some pretty nice weather out in central and eastern Canada. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send us an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find Real Agriculture across all the different social media platforms. You're also more than welcome to call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. I have a question for all the farmers this week. Earlier, I think it was yesterday, we were talking about this book that I'm reading, which is talking about the social media use of kids, and it's called The Anxious Generation. It's written by Jonathan Haidt. And he looks at how the great rewiring of childhood caused an epidemic of mental illness. One of the things he argues for is we need to have restrictions on social media usage of kids prior to the age of 60. He's got kind of a whole, like, what ages you should be able to do what, and limiting things like smartphone use, and actually looking at we need to apply the same helicopter tendencies we have as parents to online activity like we do outside activity, and loosening up on outside activity in terms of how we basically do a flip-flop, so to speak, of how we look at those two. So we've got some parents today. They're not only farmers and ranchers, but they're also parents. And we're going to get their thoughts on something that's not necessarily agriculture focused, but farm families are dealing with this issue right now across Canada and the U.S. So we'll get their thoughts on that. Let's get going with the Farmer Rapid Fire. We take the Farmer Rapid Fire to Uxbridge, Ontario. We're talking to Gerrit Herrema. Hey, Gerrit, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Shaun?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. And, of course, the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. So what's happened on the farm this week, Gerrit?
Well, we're partially through corn silage. We've gotten a field that's a little wet, so we've stopped for a bit. So we're getting some liquid manure out, and we're going to plant some triticale after corn silage here. So we're just trying to get a little bit ahead so we can get that in, and then probably full bore on soybeans and wheat planting next week if all goes well. So it's right in the fall harvest here at our place.
Yeah, and how were those silage yields?
I think we're about average on our farm. You know, we're seeing the ears are pretty well full, seeing a little tip back We think it's just we didn't get a couple rains timed right 100% with pollination. That's our observation. But regardless, the silage yields are, I'm not going to say are big, but they're still really good. But for our farm, we try and grow a variety that is kind of a medium stature plant more than a really tall plant, just trying to maximize how much starch an acre we're getting off for the milk cows. That's kind of a different philosophy we look at. And we also try and grow a dual purpose variety that if we get into a field we don't like the looks of it for silage, we can always switch out and still have a purpose for that corn.
From your experience, do those dual purpose varieties perform pretty good?
Milk-wise and yield-wise, yeah. We really see that it works well for our farm. We haven't played around with BMR or some of these tall leafy varieties, but we just like the flexibility and the consistency we seem to get out of these dual-purpose varieties.
Nice. Manure spreading. Tell us about that setup. What does that kind of look like? Give us some context.
Yeah, we got a circular manure pit, so we just have a over the wall pump that we drop in to the pit. And right now, I'm just working away with one tank right now that we only will rent a tank or two if we're going a long distance or if we're trying to beat a window. Just being close to the barn and only a few acres to do, we figured we'd just plug away at it with one tank and just try and get it done in a couple days. So when we get back, we can get right at silage because we think we have about 2 days left to chop it, and then we'll be done that.
And do you work it in right away?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. We don't own a turbo till or a vertical till, so I got to rent one from a neighbor. So we're going to try and work it in as early as we can, and then hopefully Monday or Tuesday we can get the vertically and the stuff that we work.
Do you, when the day's over and you've been spreading manure all day, does your wife have like a shower outside kind of policy, or how do you manage that?
Well, hopefully I don't get close enough to the manure tank to worry about getting covered in it, so we're okay that way. But she didn't say anything last night when I walked in the house, so I think we're okay for now.
Good, yeah, good stuff. Okay, so what's the expectations on soybeans and corn?
Soybean yields, we have one neighbor that started in his combine that he's calibrated is saying late 50s to early 60s on the yield monitor, which is good. We'll see what the waste slips say. For us, I'm kind of thinking we're going to be in that 48 to 50 bushel average, hoping. We'll see what happens here. But I'm pretty optimistic between the rains and with us putting on a fungicide on our beans. I'm real optimistic we're going to see some good yields.
Yeah, and you've been getting some pretty nice weather to do all this field work, right? Yeah, we've been able to time all this stuff pretty good. Like right now is really good. There's even guys still plugging away at some dry hay in the area, which is still baffling. We're able to do dry hay in September. But we didn't have the windows in July and August to really capitalize on doing dry hay. So good for these guys in order to get some dry hay off here to finish off the year. You said you're going to put some wheat in the ground. Are your acres going to be the same or a little bit less based on how just the timing of soybean harvest?
I think we're still going to be pretty well on par. We still need about 120-ish acres to have enough straw for the dairy herd. So, we kind of bank on that. We do grow some oats, but not sure how many of them we're going to be growing this year. And it might be more, it might be less, but wheat seems to be consistent, nice straw, so we really like to have a lot of it around.
So from a dairy operations standpoint, what's, I guess first, how has the year been going? And two, what's kind of some of the concerns or issues that you're working on?
I mean, we're seeing some fall incentive dates, which is good, and that they did give us a quota increase, which is helping to boost our production here. We got lots of cows calving, which is good. I'm sure, cow prices around the countryside have been really good on the beef side, and that's rolled into the dairy as well. We're seeing, $5,000 for fresh cows, where $2,500 to $3,000 was stopping us last year, even a couple of years ago. So it's nice to see some cow prices come up if you're able to capitalize on them. So that side's good that way. Number one concern for the industry as a whole is processing capacity and making sure we get some more dairy processing plants in order to fill the market. We got the ability to ship the milk, so let's get some plants up and going in order to fill the Canadian market.
What's preventing us from making that happen?
I think it's just a lot of time and getting these applications in on the money that was announced in the federal government. But like everything else, costs have ballooned as a whole, and I imagine the processing side's feeling the pinch on inflation like us on the farm as well.
Yeah. Well, and hey, we're starting to see rates come down. We've had the Bank of Canada lower rates 3 times here through the summer months. But we've seen pretty sticky input costs, right? So it's been a lot of concern out there from a farm profitability standpoint.
Yeah, it's one thing for fuel to come down, fertilizer, etc., but seed really hasn't come down. Chemical, you're hit or miss. But farm equipment, especially new equipment, really hasn't come down. When you're following auction prices, though, it's kind of interesting to see how much some of this used equipment is falling. But interest rates, I think, for us is a big thing. It's nice to see them come down, but we got equipment we need to start thinking about replacing. But as of right now, things are on hold until we start to see some prices come up on the grain side, or see some input prices come down a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna finish up with a question I'm asking everybody, Gerrit, and this is way off track here, a bit of a sidebar, but yesterday on RealAg Radio, I was talking about this book I'm reading, which essentially is talking about how should limit kids' access to not only social media, but even like smartphones. And he talks about like an age of 16 providing a limit. When you hear that, is that something you'd be in favor of, or you'd push back against?
Oh, that's a great question. I got a 1-year-old at home that a lot of this stuff I'm starting to think about more and more. I definitely do see it. Is it realistic? I question that as technology is getting better and better. And, we hear about all sorts of negatives when it comes down to technology and stuff, but you see so many benefits that come along with it. And, to hold back youth based on some of that stuff and not allow access to technology, I think is a little bit backwards. So there's got to be a balance you can find with youth in order to allow them to have access to these tools while in moderation. So I do see it. It's just, the answer I have, I'm not sure.
Appreciate that perspective, Gerrit. I think you're right. It is a complex issue, and it's probably got to think about we all got to think about that one a little bit more in the positives and negatives. But hey, really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to that manure spreading. Make it happen, and we'll talk to you in the future, okay?
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Shaun. Appreciate it.
And we'll be right back with more of RealAg Radio and the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada right after this.
Advanced canola trait technology is here. And it's soon to be the talk of the town. Optimum Glide delivers excellent yield potential and agronomic trait performance. Improved crop safety. Enhanced weed control. And a wider window of application. You're going to want to see this. Learn more at OptimumGlyde.ca.
Time for a product spotlight with the Canadian Canola Growers Association. We're joined now by Dave Gallant. Who is CCGA and why are we talking about cash advance?
Well, the Canadian Canola Growers Association has been around for 40 years. The cash advance program itself has been around for over 50 years. It gives farmers access to cash flow for their inventory without having to sell. Big benefits of the program: the first $250,000 this year is interest-free, and CCGA offers the program on over 50 different products. So we do all the grains and oilseeds, livestock, so cattle, bison, hogs, goats, as well as honey. This program you only pay as you deliver your product. So there's no monthly payments scheduled. You pay when you have cash flow from your product. And the third big advantage, the only collateral, especially at this time of the year, is the grain itself.
How do they learn more? How do they get started?
Well, the easiest way is you can go to ccga.ca. If you really want to understand it, you can call us at our 1-800 number, 1-866-745-2256.
And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to the deep south of Essex, Ontario, and we're talking to Brennan Byrne. Hey, Brennan, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. What's happening on the farm this week?
I think everybody's just kind of getting themselves in that pre-harvest mode. Probably a couple weeks away here, so just kind of pulling some things out of hibernation and getting ourselves ready for that.
What's been hibernating?
Well, combines and such. People at times, but yeah, it's a nice time of year. I think everything's just kind of turning here, and we've had a pretty good growing season, so we're kind of optimistic about how the crops look right now. So,
and you're getting some pretty good weather this week too, aren't you?
Yeah, we're really warm down here because I'm so close to Detroit. I speak in Fahrenheit, so we're 85 degrees,
nice,
sunny, and we have not had much rain in the last few weeks here. It's been pretty consistent warm weather.
Yeah. Well, and that 85 degrees, you can't complain about that at this time of the year.
No, it just feels like an extended summer at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Lions off to a bit of a mixed start as well.
They are. I am a Washington football fan from a long time ago.
Whoa.
And my full focus right now is on the Tigers playoff push.
Are the Tigers going to make the playoffs, you think?
They're a game and a half out as of yesterday, and they were 9.5 out as of a month ago. So they've best record in baseball in the last 30 games. So they're giving themselves a fighting chance. It'll take a bit, and Minnesota's got the tiebreaker, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, good stuff. So you said you're pretty optimistic about the corn and soybeans out in the field. I guess, when do you think you'll be able to get into those beans?
I think there will be some people have had some earlier crop maybe planted that started to turn a little bit earlier, which would probably be maybe in the next week. Myself, I'm probably more like 2 weeks away, I think, depending on what the weather does. But I'm sure we'll see some coming off somewhere the next week or so around here.
Like you're thinking like they'll have a 6 in front of them is what you're thinking yield-wise?
It could. I think maybe this dry spell at the end here might have taken a little bit out of the ones that we're filling out. But I think that based on how much moisture we've got over the summer and the heat, the crop hasn't really stressed for the most part in a lot of areas. There were some that got hit harder, of course, by the rain, but in my area, it's been a pretty good balance. So I think that everybody's optimistic without saying a number. So
yeah, well, that's and are you you're optimistic about what you see out in the fields? How do you feel about the markets?
Well, that's kind of a different story as of right now. You'd hope to see a nice rebound, but there's a lot of money that has been lost from a year ago to today just in those markets. So I think that's why we're hoping that the yields are as good as they maybe look to maybe offset some of that, but it's quite a dip for sure.
Yeah, it's really been kind of crappy. Like, and there's been days like we string together a few days where you think, okay, here we go, we're gonna rally here, and then we just kind of fall backwards again. We're having a hard time finding some long-term strength right now, it seems.
Yeah, those positive rallies are few and far between, and they're not making up for the amount that's been taken out. So I know in past years we have had some times where post-harvest there's been a decent bump, but we'll see how things go.
Have you had any chance to get away at all this summer?
Just little bits here and there, but the family and I are headed to Chicago in just over a week, I guess, to Wrigley Field and to go see the Bears at Soldier Field and kind of do that before the harvest really kicks off.
Who are the Bears playing?
The Rams. My daughter came to me when she was about 5, and she said, "Dad, I'm not going to be a Washington fan." And I said, "Well, just before you say anything, no Cowboy fan sweeps to my house." And she laughed, and she said, "No, I think I like the Bears." So this is part of her Christmas deal. So we're going there to see
poor
Rams
her.
and Bears for her.
We are a Bears house, and that includes me, my 2 boys, my daughter. My wife is she's just sort of an innocent bystander in the whole thing. Dude, how did you allow this? It's a life of misery.
Well, it's as a Washington fan and
it doesn't feel any different.
Tigers fan and an Oilers fan. These last 30 years or so have been a lot of misery. So I think misery loves company, and it does make for fun family stuff. Considering my 2 brother-in-laws are huge Lions fans, so they have had bets where they've had to wear the other's jersey or hats and stuff for the day. So. How it all goes this year.
My youngest boy sent me, we have a family Bears group chat, and he had sent me a text, or us a text, after the Bears lost to the Texans on Sunday, and it was basically like, why are we so bad at picking teams? All of our, like, you got the Calgary Flames, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Chicago Bears, all bottom of their divisions. What is wrong with us? Yeah, well...
Well, and see, my problem is my teams were good when I was a kid. So Washington was really good when I was a kid. The Oilers were really good, and then I felt terrible for my kids bringing them into that arena. So
no doubt.
Hopefully things will turn it around.
Well, this week's question: you got a family, you're raising kids, so we're going to take a bit of a sidebar here. I was talking on RealAg Radio yesterday. I'm reading this book where the author argues that we really need to limit kids' access to social media prior to the age of 16. And he even argues like kids should go back to we should have flip phones for kids before 16. And he refers to it as one of the biggest human experiments that's gone wrong. Is kind of having a free-for-all in this regard. So what are your thoughts? What should we do? Should we put age restrictions on this kind of stuff?
I think I know the book that you're talking about because I do have it in a pile in my house as well. It is kind of a concern in terms of the overall growth you see in some younger people where they might still be in the same room with their friends, but they don't really communicate verbally. It's all by text. But I go back and forth because I remember seeing somebody had posted a headline that was kind of from the 30s or whatever when the newspapers became popular and showing the New York subway and everybody on their newspaper and not talking, and it was like a big catastrophe. And they compared it kind of to everybody on their phones today and not talking, and somehow, some way, things worked out fine along the way. I think there's a definite need for balance. And I think that there's a lot of kids that are maybe getting in over their heads on social media or getting a little too hooked to it that could be an issue. I'd like to think that it's a personal choice and personal interaction that they choose to do, but limiting it probably as a parent is not a bad thing. Keeping it to a certain amount and then encouraging kids to be kids and doing other things, whether it's sports or music or whatever other interests. I think there is a balance there, but if somebody's going too far one way, it's probably worth it as a parent to maybe rein it in a little bit.
Hey, appreciate the perspective. Well, Brandon, good luck with that corn and bean harvest, okay?
Thank you.
Great stuff. Hey, we're going to be right back on RealAg Radio, brought to you today by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
We got a product spotlight with Kate Hyatt, the marketing portfolio lead for DeKalb. Let's talk about the DeKalb Coat of Farms.
Coat of Farms is an initiative to celebrate the partnership between DeKalb Seed and the farmers that are choosing it. The way that Coat of Farms works, it's a farmer-driven, artificial intelligence-enhanced line of DeKalb swag. So it's an interface on an iPad or on your phone or your computer. You answer a series of questions that help drill down to what represents you. And then a 3D rendered jacket gets created.
So how long does this go on for?
That's a great question. So contest runs from August 27th through to October 15th. After October 15th, there's going to be a contest where 10 of the coats will be available to be won through draws and from the people that participated.
That is great. DeKalbCoatOfFarms.ca. Up next on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. We're going to Eastend, Saskatchewan. We're talking to Jocelyn Wasko. Jocelyn, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. It's raining, so I'm in a great mood.
Anytime it rains in Eastend, we're happy no matter what time of the year, right?
Absolutely. Yes, we never turn down rain out here.
Yeah, we're not picky in Eastend about rain.
No.
We're picky about other things like the kind of beer we drink or maybe the hockey team we cheer for. But rain, no. All shapes, sizes, anything, we'll take it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're careful what you show up to a branding with for beer-wise. But no, rain is not one thing that we are picky about. We'll take it anytime. It will come.
Okay, so besides the rain, what else is going on in the ranch this week?
We've actually had a really kind of crazy fall. We wrapped up harvest early, which is not great, but it is what it is. And then we've kind of just been working through a lot of different projects on the ranch. We live in a valley, and our yard is kind of a flood basin. So Travis and I have kind of put this project off for long enough, so we decided to get like a big excavator in and just like completely strip the yard, and then GPS level it for proper drainage, haul rock in, build proper roads, everything. So we've done this huge project that kind of took up different parts of the summer, and now we're just kind of putting things back together, and I'm just so excited about it. It's like such an adult project to be excited about, but the yard looks so nice and normally, so this is like a perfect example of today. Like it's rained about half an inch and continues to rain, and we can still drive around our yard, and that is just the greatest feeling in the world, because normally we're like 3/10 and we got to wait 4 days until we can move any equipment in and out. So that's kind of been a pretty big project. We did some fall rye seeding. That's all on the ground, and now it's getting a drink, which is great. We're going to be gathering up our yearlings and selling those next week. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy busy time, but just like the best time of year.
I think we all have those moments in life where we reference, I'm getting older. It's like, what did you ask for Christmas? That's an indication. And you getting excited about the fact you're working on your yard. That you have,
I know.
You've reached adulthood.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when that big earth mover pulled in the yard, I was like, this is the best day.
So you probably, did you have to replant a whole bunch of grass too?
No, it's all rock. So like it's just our main yard.
Okay.
Where like we park all of our equipment. We have our bale stacks and our silage pit and everything. So it's all rocked now, and it's going to drain into the creeks. We also have like the creek running through our yard. So no, it's going to be really great. Like all the bales are just on this nice perfectly level stacked yard. We bought those concrete blocks. Everyone probably knows what I'm talking about. They're kind of like the big Lego blocks. So that's what we're building our silage pit out of, and everything is just like so neat and clean. And yeah, it's definitely an adult thing, but I'm not embarrassed to admit how happy it makes me. So
that is good. What's your thoughts on some of the prices? You're taking yearlings to market next week?
Yeah, they're good. Like, we've got really good prices. Not as big of a spread between like 558s and 958s that I would like, just because we kept those calves over and grassed them all summer, and you'd like to be rewarded for that investment that you put into them. But I mean, the market's still really strong, so we can't complain. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring. Feeling pretty optimistic about it. And then I think we're just going to continue this process. We're going to load up on calves this fall and keep them over, and just kind of keep seeing what the market does. Hopefully it's a nice long trend.
Do you usually take them to auction, or in some years do you do private sales, or is it usually auctions?
So last year we preconditioned a load of steers, and then we kept the rest. Previous years we've sold calves. We just kind of been trying to figure out exactly where we want to be and spread out our risk. We then, after that terrible spring, the April that everyone knows what I'm talking about here, when we lost all those calves because winter just seemed to last until May, we backed our calving off. So now we've got lighter calves in the fall, and we think it just makes more sense to keep them a little bit longer. And the yearling market just works well into our program. So that's kind of what we're going to stick with for now. And then we'll just buy some more calves and feed them out and just maximize everything. So that's what we're going to do from now on.
Yeah. And so now you're calving in when?
We don't start our purebreds until the start of April, and then we don't start our commercials until well into the third week.
Way more fun than February, March.
It is. And we have our bull sale in February, so we also didn't want to be calving at the same time as that and spread out the workload a little bit more. So there's a few factors to it. And like I've said on this before, we calve everything out on native grass. So we're not really set up to run everything through a barn. So pushing that calving back was a really good decision for us. It was, especially this year, we just felt great about it. Everything was born so healthy and out on green grass, and it's good.
Yeah. The grass got to be in decent shape with some of this moisture the past couple weeks, or what condition is it in?
Yeah. We had a good grass year for sure. Things like burnt up as usual, just like with the typical summer, native grass is not going to last you all year, but we've got plenty that we carried over. We're going to be moving into our kind of late fall and winter fields in really good shape. Like the grass, it was a really good grass year. Everything looks really good. We, over the last few years, just with a little bit of downsizing, dealing with the droughts, we were able to bank a lot of grass. So we like to measure our wealth in grass, and we're feeling pretty wealthy this year.
Yeah, because you're in an area where, like we were joking about, won't turn down a rain. Not every year is like this. And that's an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've been through some pretty horrific years, and our grass management has been put to the test for sure. So we had a really nice spring, and then again, it did not rain here this summer.
Yeah,
we went through weeks of no rain, so we were just lucky that we kind of set ourselves up really well with the spring. Just had some good rains, caught some good ones, and now it looks like we're actually catching some fall moisture. So grass side of things, we're doing good. Yeah,
there's short grass country, and then there's short grass country, and you are in the latter. You were in the latter. Okay, I got a question for you. Been asking all of our farmers this week about this book I'm reading, which argues for needing to restrict kids' use of social media prior to the age of 16. And not really an ag topic, but I know everyone's got families. You've got a young one. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm very anti-technology for my kids. My kids, for reference, are 5, 7, and 9. And we have had one family iPad that lives its life in a drawer and is dead pretty much 90% of the time. It kind of gets busted out on a long road trip, and that's about it. I'm lucky. I have not had to navigate the social media thing yet, and I'm pretty nervous about it. I'm a trained educator, and when I go in and sub in the high school, I cannot believe the amount of just notifications and, like, kids are just, it's constant. Like, we think that we're addicted to our phones as adults, and we probably are, but I cannot believe the pressure that these kids are under, and I am not looking forward to having to navigate this, but I'm going to have from what I can say now, and I know that probably parents of teenagers are going to roll their eyes at me, but I'm going to have some pretty strict rules regarding social media and even just access to cell phones. I hope that we can push this off for as long as possible.
Yeah, the author argues the age of 16.
Yeah, no, and I can totally see it. Like, their brains just are not developed enough to deal with the pressures of social media until then, and maybe even later. Yeah.
It's one of the things the author talks about is there's a lot of helicopter parents out there on outside activities and don't at all provide those helicopter tendencies on the technology side, and we need to flip the two.
Right, and I can totally see that. Yeah. I think most parents in a rural setting, we don't have to helicopter outside because our kids are just kind of kicked out the door and left to their own devices, and they have this awesome environment to grow up in. So I can see that argument would be difficult when you're living in more of an urban setting.
Yeah, for sure.
It would be an interesting conversation to have with some of my friends that have raising children in a city, because they would have a completely different perspective than me, I would imagine.
Well, hey, I appreciate your perspective very much. Thank you so much, and good luck with that rain and getting everything ready before the freeze up.
You betcha. Thanks, Shaun. Always a pleasure.
And we will be right back on RealAg Radio here for the rest of the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
Whether you're in a career within an organization, starting your own business, looking for your dream job, running your own farm operation, operating a company in ag or food, or want to hone your overall life skills, this conference is for you. Celebrating over 10 years of bringing women in ag together, join the Advancing Women Conference in Niagara Falls on November 17th, 18th, and 19th. Visit advancingwomenconference.ca for more information and to register.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
Make sure you tune in to The Agronomist every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. The Agronomist, hosted by Lindsay Smith, dives deep into the world of agronomics with two experts and a great interactive audience. Find it at realagriculture.com/live or on the Real Agriculture YouTube channel. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to Rimbey, Alberta. And we're talking to Chad Beagle. Hey, Chad, how's it going?
Good, Shaun. How are you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. What's going on right now? What are you doing?
We're doing a little second cut up here. It got a little rain on it, so we're just more or less just trying to get it off the field. So, yeah, things are going up here. We've been getting some rain here lately, so things are looking pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, is two cuts usually about your norm, or?
Yeah, and for this area, yeah. Some of the other guys, they get off the first one early. They do get three here once in a while on a good year, but typically for us, two cuts are great, and then we usually like to use some for fall pasture too a little bit.
Yeah, and there's been a bunch of rain go through the prairies. You're getting it in Rimbey this week too? Yeah,
no, it is actually, look, you're kind of a god. And really, I know a lot of farmers in the area were getting concerned about getting into October here, but it's not real nice, and I think guys are a little more positive on that side of things for sure.
Now, you're out there raking. That seems like to be one of those activities on the tractor where, can you screw up raking?
Yes, you can, and you'll hear it from the baler.
You know what? The baler guy is like, is the baler guy ever happy?
No, never. No, it's a job usually for the boys, but they're gone for the winter. So yeah, I'm on the rake today.
It's always hard when the boys leave the farmer ranch, and all of a sudden it's like, I can't delegate that anymore. I gotta go do it. So
absolutely.
The boys are off to play hockey.
Yes, they are. You betcha. We got our silage in wrapped up a little earlier this year, just with the summer heat, which actually worked out okay for us. We got a couple of weeks of good work out of them before they took off to their junior A teams. Yeah.
You know what? It was true when you and I were kids, and it's still true today. Some good, honest, hard farm work is the best possible hockey camp training you can do.
100%, for two reasons. One, they get a work ethic. Number two is they're like, I'm kind of really looking forward to the hockey season now. I know the boys were, we were working them pretty hard before they took off. So I think they were looking forward to getting back to their billets places and getting on the ice for sure.
Nice. Good stuff. So how are some of the crop yields in the area? What have you been hearing from neighbors?
Yeah, so the biggest thing here, Shaun, is it's been really spotty. And I think through a lot of Alberta, talking to some hockey parents from other parts of the province, and no real different here. We had some showers come through that, we talked to one guy and he had 2 inches, and 2 miles down the road he got 2/10. So spotty, but I think generally the canola crops. I'm just talking to some guys at the coffee room at the store this morning, and for the year, they're pretty pleasantly surprised, I think. Some of the wheat crops, some of the barley crops were a little lighter, of course, just with that heat in July around here. They didn't quite fill the way they should have, but for the most part, canola and wheat, not too bad. Silage crops, same thing. I've heard within a small area from 10 ton to the acre to 2 ton to the acre. So, really spotty, definitely.
The old rain lottery, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but you in Rimbey there, you got some pretty intense heat during July there too, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah, like I said, without these last rains, I think a lot of the cows on grass were getting pretty, but. Like I said, that late rain, I think 5 inches within a couple of weeks there in some places really, and you can see it. The grass is kind of green back up and definitely gets guys through to the fall.
People with cows feeling optimistic about this fall?
I think so. There's for the most part, I think the prices aren't quite the same they were. Just hearing from a couple guys on the yearling run, but definitely optimistic and happy, with where we're at comparatively speaking to a couple of years ago. So, I think overall guys are pretty optimistic and glad with what we're getting for sure.
Yeah, it is nice to have some optimism in the ranching sector. It is much needed. We were just talking to Jocelyn Wasko out of Eastend, and they're getting some rain. And anytime it rains in Eastend, Saskatchewan, you are very happy. Rimbey's a little bit different in the sense that kind of in central Alberta, rain is not as you're short of it, but it's not. You get a little bit more of it.
Yes, and it has been of the norm here the last couple of years ago. As you know, Shaun, we moved up here, I guess, 25 years now from southern Alberta, and the first couple of years was definitely adjustment, trying to get figured out that the haying isn't as easy as you think it is, just with the moisture and stuff. Yeah. But the last couple of years our dugouts and spring run creeks and stuff like that have definitely felt the toll. And this rain, year has definitely helped out in that fact. I know at the store, just guys looking for alternatives for watering cattle that I don't think had to worry about that in the past. So, looking at solar and pumps and hauling water, and that's usually not the norm for up here, but I know in the last couple of years it's definitely been more prevalent.
Yeah, you've seen different ends of the equation. When you're farming in dry land in southern Alberta, you're like, oh, I wish I could farm somewhere where there's rain every once in a while. Then when you get it, you're like, what the heck do I do with all this water? Where's some dry weather? It's just we're in essence, we're just never happy.
Oh, 100%. And being in Lowman, farming was great there. We loved the community and everything. But yes, we definitely felt the dry. And then coming to Rimbey, I remember the first couple of years, the forecast would say, yep, no rain for a week. So down all the hay goes. And 3 weeks later, after 3 inches of rain or 4, and we learned our lesson in a big hurry.
Yeah, Lowman, Alberta, the home of the three-way stop that nobody could really quite understand. You mentioned that 25 years ago. You want to hear? I was talking or texting with an old classmate that listens to this show, and we were saying 30 years. Like
30 years.
That. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
No kidding. Well, you know what age of kids are right now, and we remember those days as well, and I can't believe that we kids that age.
Yeah, tell me about it. Hey, last question, Chad, before I let you go, and you've got your kids have kind of gone through this, but I've been asking all the farmers and ranchers this week about a book that I've been listening to that talks about we need to start to think about restricting kids' access to things like social media and smartphones before the age of 16. You kind of been through this. I guess, what did you do as a parent, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, we had restrictions, definitely. They had their time. I don't think you can fully restrict them, and so I'm still coaching teenage. Well, right now I'm coaching a U18 team out of Red Deer, and it's definitely something that we got to keep our eyes on. We do talk about it in the dressing room, and I talk to my daughter about it a lot. And I totally agree with boundaries. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So I think the biggest thing is communication with your child and making sure they understand what can happen. I know the boys now, there's guys that come and talk to hockey teams about how your world can change in an instant just by one silly post on social media, right? And they talk about the first thing a scout or a general manager will do is go on social media and check to see what you're all about. So it's dangerous. It's definitely something to be aware of. And, I think as parents and coaches and as everything, I think we should do everything we can to make sure that these kids are understanding what the dangers are. I know hockey players that have not been drafted or picked up by a team simply because of a post that they made on social media. So, I've been through it as a coach. We've had to deal with it a couple times. So, communication, I think, is absolutely paramount.
Yeah, well put. Well, Chad, let's get back to your raking. Thanks a lot, bud. Really appreciate it.
All right, Shaun. Thank you very much for calling.
And we will be right back on the Farmer Rapid Fire here on RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
At Vatterstad, we aim to be the world's leading partner for outstanding emergence. We're doing that through innovative tillage, planting, and seeding equipment that's optimized for your field conditions and soil types. We also offer industry-leading capacities to help you get the job done in shorter windows of time. It's all designed to give your crop the best start possible so you can maximize yields. Vatterstad, we look forward to growing together.
Featuring dual active ingredients NBPT and pronitridine, Tribune provides consistent protection both above and below ground in one convenient formulation. NBPT defends against ammonia volatilization, while the patented second active ingredient, pronitridine, safeguards nutrients from denitrification and leaching. Learn how Tribune can bring greater flexibility and protection to your operation by visiting tribunestabilizer.ca.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. We're going to finish up the Farmer Rapid Fire talking to our pioneer agronomist. And this week, it is Mike Weir. Hey, Mike, how are we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are things in Carmen? Have you been getting some of this crazy moisture this week that parts of Manitoba have been getting?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Not as there's been lots in Carmen, but it's been fairly or quite a bit less in some areas of the province where you get out into south of the city, like south of Winnipeg, into St. Anne, Otterburn, down through the Eastman region of the province. And yeah, it's extremely wet, like hearing reports upwards of 7 to 8 inches. And it's a fairly large pocket that stretches right across into southern Manitoba, Winkler area out through into, you get out into Plum Coulee area where, yeah, they've had anywhere from 2 inches to, upwards of 8 inches in some parts of the province. So it's caused a lot of grief, and there's a lot of edible beans that have been knifed and are on the ground, and a few canola fields out there left to come off where it's going to pose some challenges, and soybean harvest that's just around the corner too, where it's going to potentially pose some challenges. Just where we're at on the calendar, we're in the fall here, and it just takes that much longer for things to dry up. There's not a crop sucking a lot of that moisture up, and daytime temperatures don't reach quite as high as they would a couple weeks ago.
Mike, I don't think there is any part of the growing season where we're like, man, if only we could get 6-7 inches this week, we would be in great shape. Nobody says that. This is again where timing is so important, right? So this is the kind of this is just a lot. Like no matter what time of the year, this is a lot, and the problem is that a lot of it ends up somewhere else. It doesn't, this isn't like some of it's going to get stocked into the soil, but not all of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I guess the saving grace is we weren't extremely saturated going into it. So, it came fast and hard. So it did pond pretty quick and move. But to your point, the ditches can only handle so much. It's going to bank somewhere and back up into fields. And that's kind of where we're at in some of these areas. So I think the forecast this week is still, somewhat wet. So, hopefully our waterways and our systems can handle this and get it out of the ditches so it can get off the field so we can at least start the drying process here.
The canola harvest almost wrapped up in parts of Manitoba. What have you been hearing from growers from a yield standpoint? Because if I was to broad brush it across Western Canada, I'd say that canola yields are coming in below expectations, but there are some good pockets. So what have you been hearing from some of the customers there in Carmen?
Yeah, well, I'll speak from a broad perspective. Like it seems it's a mixed bag. Like I think the last time you and I spoke, we talked about just how variable the canola crop looked, and we're seeing that into harvest too, where you look on one side of the road and a guy's canola is performing quite well, and a guy across the road combining a crop that's half the yield. So we're I guess in general what we're finding is it seemed the earlier seeded canola this year seems to be yielding a little bit stronger. Hearing some reports of anywhere from 45 upwards of high 50s. Then we kind of get into the middle seeding dates towards the middle of May where it's all over the map, anywhere as low as 20 bushels and as high as 55. And then some of the later seeded canola here now is somewhere in between those two. So it's, to your point, I think a lot of guys have found the canola crop maybe looked a little better than it was once they got into it. But with that being said, there is some good areas or good pockets where there were some nice yields being taken off.
And as we're just about to dip into those, and when I say dip, when the rain goes away, hopefully we're not having to dive into any depth of water with our soybean harvest, but we're about to get the combine into the soybean crop. What's the expectations on soybeans?
I'm a bit of a superstitious guy, so I don't want to spit a specific number out, but I'm extremely optimistic on the soybean crop out there. If you were to ask me that at the end of June, it'd be a different answer, but they've really come on here with the heat we finally got. And it's makes such a big difference we talk about the excessive moisture we've had as of late, but the timely rains we had throughout August. For the most part, generally speaking, there really wasn't a time where the soybean crop was moisture stressed from a lack of it. And therefore you don't see a lot of aborted pods on the plant, and within those pods, aborted seeds. So I think those rains came at a time where we didn't see a lot of pod or seed abortion. We've seen a lot of pods being put up on the top of the plant, which are, those are a bit of a gravy as far as yield. That really boosts those yields. And then people often forget just how important seed size is from a contributing to the yield overall. And generally speaking, the seed size looks quite plump too. So I think everything's set up for some really impressive soybean yields out there. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of field averages in the 50s, and, there might even be some possible reports in the 60s too. So, so now we just got to go get them, right? So that'll be the next challenge. But I think that it's going to be worth the challenge to go get them from what's out there.
Yeah, with a down market like this, every bushel counts, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to add much more to that. It is what it is, and every extra bushel, it just makes that much difference. So overall, pretty optimistic on the soybean crop that looks to come off here.
Well, hey, great stuff. Hey, Mike, really appreciate you joining us here this week on the Farmer Rapid Fire, of course, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, and we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, anytime. Good to chat.
If you have any feedback on today's program, we'd love to hear from you. You can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or, of course, you can call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147, and make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. And make sure you check out canola, soybeans, corn, and especially on the canola, the Optimum Glide trait. Fantastic technology. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio, and we will chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.